The drama of Insanity Mary Gerard was the first high school theater production I joined in my sophomore year. The play, written by Lainey Robertson, centers on the story of a wife of a noted 18th century Philadelphia financier who was committed to a mental asylum. Born Mary Lum, she was a working-class girl about 10 years younger than her husband, Stephen Gerard. After several years of marriage in which she did not have a child, she became pregnant by a lover and not her husband. Little else is known about the historic Mary Gerard other than these bare facts. Questions that arise from the history of Mary Gerard is if she is actually mentally ill, or has her husband had her locked up in the asylum as a means of both disposing her and punishing. Robertson instead chooses the darker answers to offer a harrowing look at the treatment of mental illnesses in the late 18th and early 19th century, adding a more subtle question: just how far has that treatment come? Once one begins to watch the play, Mary Gerard is already seated at the center of the bare stage, strapped into a large wooden chair, hands and feet bound with a large wooden block covering her head. If she were not already mad, it is clear that this snake pit would bring her to the breaking point. Confined from her first day, or so we are told, to the tranquility chair, the primitive sensory deprivation and bloodletting has left Mary in a daze, unsure of her surroundings or any sense of time. Released temporarily by a lecherous warder, she is plagued by a group of taunting furies. The furies create an auditory haze for Mary and the audience, speaking in tandem, lines overlapping one another, thoughts floating from one to the other, like waves crashing against Mary's mind, eroding away her defenses. As she cries out for help, each fury becomes a character from her life. As the play is more of a psychological character study than plot-driven, these brief encounters offer the only moments of dramatic exposition. Mrs. Lum is chillingly distant as Mary's unsympathetic mother. Polly Kenton saucily taunts Mary as the younger, prettier little housemaid who has replaced her in her husband's bed. The warder reveals genuine sorrow for her plight as the director of the asylum. His ethical hesitation about falsely confining Mary are overcome by the promise of generous financial support. And Miss Hatcher pushes things over the brink, leading a maniacal act of cruelty that leaves the audience shuddering. It must be noted that in painting Stephen Gerard as a cold villain, Robertson is at odds with the historical image of the rest of his life. He's remembered even today in Philadelphia for his philanthropic efforts, especially in establishing education opportunities and seeing to the welfare of orphans. Calling a dream in one act, or a nightmare to be more accurate, The Insanity of Mary Gerard brings to life the inner workings of Mary's memories and insanity. When the audience of The Insanity of Mary Gerard leave the theater and walk by the tranquility chair, they may wonder if that device has merely been replaced by the various doses of tranquilizers today. As my favorite play that I participated in, The Insanity of Mary Gerard opened my eyes to the theatrical world, not only changing the way I look at the drama, but also how to become a character that embodies insanity.